Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This is the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time show that Lisa and I do every week, on Mondays. My name is Susan Capurso from East End Doula Care. I'm an end of life doula and legacy specialist. And Lisa, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you again, Susan. I hope you had a great July 4th weekend. My name is Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I'm a bereavement specialist. And we are here today to talk about preserving memories, one of my favorite topics. You know me, I love memories. So we get to welcome our guest today. He's Jeff Kay. He's the president of My Digital Memories, and he helps families to immortalize their precious memories, organize their photos and media for visual storytelling, bringing yesterday's memories back to the future. And so I welcome you, Jeff, and I can't wait to hear all about the company and about you.
It's a beautiful topic. Thank you for being here, Jeff.
Thank you.
I'd like to start with how you started this company and how it came about.
Well, the company actually, the more I thought about it, this company actually started long before I actually made it a company. Back when I was about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old, I started to collect cards, birthday cards, celebration cards, Hanukkah cards, Christmas cards, because they were, or cards from people that my family sent me from camp, because they were all personal. They had their handwriting on it, and it's something that I could really relate to, and that's how it started. And then I wanted to. Then as time progressed, technology progressed, and about around, how old was I? When I was about 23, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I told my dad that, it'd be nice to have some type of way to convert people's media, because you were going from 8 tracks to cassettes to CDs, and it's still evolving. You're going from VHS to DVD to mini DVD to and now you're even streaming. And if I even take you before, back in Vietnam, you had your Super 8, you had your 8 millimeter, you had 16 millimeter sound, and you just have tons of media. And as you may or may not know, media has, if it's stored correctly, and by that I mean in a climate controlled environment, its average life expectancy is about 20 years.
Oh boy.
After that, you'll probably see photo discoloration. The film might be brittle or things like that, and it'll need photo restoration, touch-ups, and that's perhaps, that's worst case scenario. But when I approached my dad with this idea, he's like, well, that's nice. Now go out and get a job. So fast forward 20 years, my parents passed away. My dad passed away in 2008. My mom passed away in 2018. And my sister and I had the task of going through my parents' house. Well, we're going through their house, and we found a bunch of slides and tapes, media, film. I came across birthday cards from when I was a year old. I came across, some type of birthday album, something very much like a gift registry now for weddings, but it was for when people were born. I don't think they even do that anymore. But it had all these lists of names and numbers and presents, and I had all these cards from my first birthday, second birthday, third birthday. And it was kind of ironic because some of the people, well, I don't know many of these people. Some of them I'm still friends with their kids. So I've been friends with their kids for going on 40 plus years. And in others, maybe 50. And all these photos were really important to me. And I mean, this is history, my heritage, and things like that, and where I come from. And so my sister and I started fighting over this stuff. She's like, well, I don't want it. It'll take up too much space. And then here I am in a townhouse. And she's like, you take it. I'm like, I don't, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
So then I thought of this idea I had, and I'm like, maybe now is the time for me to start this idea and this venture. So I was able to digitize all the slides, the photographs, the movies, and everything, and share it with her and her kids and my kids. But even more importantly, trips that my parents went on with their friends. A lot of their friends never even saw these pictures or these videos. So I was even able to share that with them and their kids, because now their kids are now starting to, how do I put it, have the same experience as me, being a baby boomer, where your parents are now aging and passing away, or unfortunately suffering from Alzheimer's or something else. And they want to keep these memories alive, because all these memories are someone's legacy. They tell a story. Everybody has a story to tell.
Jeff, they
And I
serve
told
as a
my clients,
validation, right? They serve as a validation of your existence,
oh,
really. And it
absolutely,
gives you the roots
absolutely.
and heritage, like
That
you
get
said.
passed down from generation to generation.
That's right.
Absolutely. And as I tell my clients, no one's ever forgotten as long as they're remembered,
That's right.
whether it's a
Oh, I
person.
got the chills. Can I use that?
Love that. Love that.
I love
My
that.
girlfriend just wrote that, by the way. She has COPD, and she just wrote that same thing. I just want to be remembered.
And from my perspective, that saying can be applied to whether it's a pet.
Yes.
It can be applied to anything. And it's so true, because if you think about it, even if someone passes, you're still part of their DNA, so that you're still part of them.
That's right.
So as long as you remember them, they'll always be a part of you. They're part of you anyway.
That's right.
So that's pretty much how I got started. Then a couple years ago, I lost my border collie, who suffered epilepsy, and he was 6 years old. He had a breakthrough seizure, which that means his meds didn't work, and I was devastated. And I decided, well, as I previously said, this not only works for people, but it also works for pets. So I expanded my idea to incorporate it with pets. And I found when I did that, very much like people, when you preserve their memories, I find it really helped with my grieving process.
Yeah.
It helped me with my parents' grieving process. It helped me with my pet's grieving process. And it's important. When I was going through, after we cleaned out my parents' house, I was going through my grandfather's wallet. I found a picture behind a picture behind a picture. And the picture was about the size of a postage stamp. And I was emailing my existing relatives saying, who is this? Well, it turns out to be my grandfather's mother from the 1890s.
Wow.
And I'm like, and so I had to hop on Ancestry. I had to find more information, and it was just a treasure to find. And then when I compared the profile view of that picture to my mom's picture, I could actually see where the genes pass from one generation to the next.
That's wonderful.
And it's amazing.
So the thing is that people can do this before anything happens.
Oh,
as I've
absolutely.
done.
I would highly recommend you do it before.
with
Um,
with birthdays, with anniversaries. I mean, cabinets of VCR tapes that you can put together in some kind of really cool, like for my daughter's 30th birthday, every birthday that she had and every little celebration, all together in one DVD in one place. Then of course you add music to it, right?
yes, we digitize VHS tapes. We pretty much digitize any form of media. Well, it's 8mm, 16mm, VHS tape, mini DVD, and
So Jeff, if
many-
somebody had a collection of these different types of media that we're talking about, the VHS, the CDs, reel to reel, whatever, would you take the combination of all this and put it into one platform for them? Is that how do you exactly do your work?
Each one of my projects, as well as my pricing structure, is customized to the client.
But you
So
can
if they
do
wanna
that, you can combine
Yes.
different media, right?
Yes, that's one way I could definitely do it. Or if they wanted it separately, I can do it separately. If they wanted music to it, I can do that. If you wanted voiceover to it, I can do that. And then one of the things I also do is I provide storage media. A lot of, yes, I know people use iCloud, you use Google, there's a lot of storage medium out there. And there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not going to say that they're right, they're wrong. But from my own perspective, the stuff that I recommend that I use is stuff that you own. So you're not tied to terms and conditions. Should the provider decide to make some change and you can't access it, that kind of just makes me very uneasy.
Jeff, how do you give them their final product? Is it just a link that you give them at the end? Is it on something, a flash drive? Like, what do you give them at the end of the project?
Once again, it's customizable to the client. I can give them a link. I can put it in the cloud for them. I can put it on a DVD. I can put it on a USB, or depending if it has that much, or if they have that much stuff, I'll even put it on a hard drive. And then I do ship it. I work globally, but my shipping method, I only use UPS with a tracking number, and I've never had any issues.
I'd love to introduce different situations. You look at eulogies, for instance, and you go to a memorial service or you go to a funeral, and it's really nice to have pictures running and information running about that person. It just makes it so real and that person's life right in front of you. So
Cool.
I've seen that, and I'm sure you do that, right?
But even let's take that a step further.
Okay.
That just touches on a glimpse of somebody's life. What do you do with all the photos and media and film that have been collected up to that point?
Yeah.
That is the celebration of life videos, whether they're pet or people, are lovely. But as you know, everyone's got a story to tell. So if you take that back to when they were born, I mean, what a gift that's a gift for somebody.
Yes.
What do you plan to do with that? I mean, whether if you live to be 80, I mean, that's 80 years of a life story.
Yes.
And granted, now we have cameras. We're privileged enough to have cameras where you can hold down the shutter for a second and get 100 pictures, for example, of basically the same thing. But one of the questions I ask people is, you've got all these photos on your phone.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to find your favorite picture? Or even in your photo albums, how long does it take you to find that special picture? Well, one of the other things that we do, well, from a digital perspective, is we get rid of all the duplicates. Then if they want it, we can tag the photos. So we can organize it from both a digital perspective and a regular photograph perspective. And then if we want to take that a step further, we can also catalog it. So your digital photos correspond back to your physical photos.
That's really cool. I'm such a good example of this, Jeff. I have 151 albums right here in my office, okay? And I had another 8,000 pictures that were in a tub. And having moved from my house, there they were. Now, I just scanned them in. But to have them cataloged and have them indexed, like you're saying, that would really help find things. I mean, I guess family and vacations and I guess whatever categories you put into them, then I would know where everything was.
Well, and the reason I say that is because it's very important to preserve somebody's history. But if you take it down, and I can store people's stuff for up to 300 years. But so if you take it up for, say you take it 300 years down the road and nothing's tagged or organized, how is somebody supposed to know what they're looking at?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What's your
That's the reason I
turnaround on
bring
a
it up.
project, Jeff? I know depending on how large it is, but
I'm sorry?
Turnaround.
your turnaround on the project. I know it'll be different for each person because some will be bigger than others, but do you have an average?
I've had some where I have, excuse me, a turnaround in a day. I'm working with someone now, potentially. We haven't gone through the contract signing yet or anything, but he has 40,000 slides or photos. So from that perspective, that could take a year.
Wow.
Just to put things into perspective.
Wow.
Yeah.
People have a lot
And
of.
that's wonderful. That's an important project for them to do, you know, at any time,
At any time.
before
Oh,
or after the loss.
Absolutely. And I would rather take my time doing it and doing it right the first time than rushing through it and giving them a product that's not as good. And say, if it's a year project, I'd rather have it take a year than give it and have it be perfect in a year than give it to them 6 months where it still needs a little bit of refinement.
Right. People are also very frightened of giving up their stuff. So, you know, when we send it to you, I don't know where you're located. I didn't ask that. But, you know, when we send it, is there some kind of guarantee of getting it? I mean, you know, it's hard. If I would take my albums and start bringing them apart, that'd be pretty scary to me. So how do you work that?
How do I work that? Well, I know there are other companies that do the same thing. Whether you're using Legacy Box, iMemories, or any of these other companies that you would still have to ship it to. But what I find is that in the years that I've been doing this, is that UPS is absolutely the best.
The tracking number and everything.
You get a tracking number and you can track it. I can tell you that I have 17 years of being an international project manager. So my company being a global business, I make sure the customer provides me the shipping tracking number. As soon as I receive it, they're notified that I have it. And as I go through the various processes, and I keep them apprised of various milestones. And they do get both the digital and their originals back.
Right.
Do you encourage people to insure their box of items?
You can insure it.
I don't know what the value is. How do you put a value on it?
I mean, I know companies like Forever, if they lose it, they'll give you $5,000. But from my perspective, I don't know how you put a monetary value on something that's irreplaceable.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Where are you located, by the way, Jeff?
Excuse me?
Where are you located?
I am located in West Virginia.
Mhm.
I'm a solopreneur, have a small business. So I was going to say something, I lost my train of thought. So, oh, yes. As I mentioned, you have companies like these online companies, but when you ship it to them, do you know who has your photos?
Sure.
Do you know where they're going in the company? Are the companies siloed? So does somebody get your slides? Does somebody get your photographs? Does somebody get your video? If you had a question, who do you call? Well, for me, I'm a one-man band. And so for myself, how many companies can you call and speak with the CEO or the founder of the company?
Which, by the way, why don't you tell us the contact information? This is a good time.
Sure. I can be reached at 703-861-2793, or my website's www.mydigital-memories.com, or if you want to send me an email, it's jeff@mydigital-memories.com.
Nice. Why don't you tell some stories about some of the interesting, projects that you've done? I'm sure you've done some really different things.
Yes, I do. I did a project. Lady brought me some movies, 8mm, that she's never seen.
Wow.
And her dad was in Vietnam. She was born after her dad was deployed. And unfortunately, her dad was killed in Vietnam. So she never heard his voice. The tapes were never played. So after after I digitized the stuff for her, she broke down in tears. I mean, it was just such a special and memorable moment that she never heard in 30, 35 years.
Oh, wonderful.
I have people who bring me videotapes, and more often than not, they're like, well, can you digitize these for me? I don't know what's on them. And they're videos of maybe their kids' first steps or life's milestones. I mean, these are important events. And it's just, they find it very touching. It's very emotional. And that's why I got into this business.
It really is fulfilling. I know I do projects like that myself, Jeff. But I have a question to ask you now about some of my history here. So my husband passed away 8 years ago, but when we got married, we were married 25 years, I was all about the videoing. So I had the little VHS tapes, had a whole box of them. So what I did was I went and bought this little machine that I hooked my camera up to, and then it put it on CD. Now I have a whole box of CDs and not a single CD player in my house. So what would your suggestion be to me? Is there something that I can do with all these CDs to put them on one thing? I don't know, or just keep the CDs and find a CD player to watch them?
No. My recommendation would be to get with someone and have them converted to digital and probably put them in the cloud. Otherwise, you're going to keep redigitizing the stuff, your memories. So if you at least digitized it once and put it in the cloud, I think the cloud is at least a long-term solution for right now. I mean, right now it's the latest and greatest because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, you've seen your 8mm tapes, then you go into 16mm tapes, and then you added sound to it, then you went to VHS, then you went to DVD, and technology keeps evolving. So I mean,
So if I had that done, Jeff, right? And then they would all be digital links to these CDs that I have. And now we have smart TVs. So I believe on my TV, I can go on to my internet or email or wherever and go on to the cloud, and I can find it there and then just play them right on my TV. That's how that would work?
Yes.
Nice.
Okay,
Except
because that's confusing to a lot of people that aren't savvy in it. That's why I wanted to just be clear.
Well, from that perspective, it unless you're a techie, it can get very confusing. So I like to keep things very simple. So I mean, whether you want to, and in most cases, a lot of people ask me for a USB, a thumb drive or a USB, only because that's all you have to do is just plug and play. You don't have to go to the cloud and do all this other stuff, then stream it. And well, that's not difficult. It's just not as easy as plugging in a USB drive. I know computers right now, they don't come with DVD players. They don't come with CD players. So a lot of people are the same boat as you. And so I do a lot of that.
And how do you charge for that depending on how many CDs you're getting, right?
Yes.
Because not all of my CDs are full, or, you know, some are partial.
And the way I'll address that is that if you go to my website, you'll notice I don't have any pricing information on my website. What I do provide a free consultation. And then after the consultation, during the consultation, I'll figure out, we'll discuss what you want. I'll gather an understanding of what you have. It doesn't have to be exact. And then we'll figure out what type of media is best to put it on. And then I'll write up a proposal just to validate what we discussed. And then I'll send you the proposal for signature, and we go from there. But each project is different. That's why I don't put pricing on my website. Right. My pricing pretty much goes like, it's kind of like shopping at Costco. If you bring me, say, one VHS tape will be $29.95, for example. If you bring me over 50,
Mhm.
your price is going to be $17.95 per tape or something around there. By no means are these exact prices. So,
Okay,
like
well,
for
that's
the
great
person who,
information.
so for like the person who has 40,000 slides,
Mm.
I'm not going to charge them $1 a slide.
Mhm.
But I'm still working on that pricing. But yeah,
What's really nice for our viewers is that this is something that can happen before anything happens in their lives, to just preserve memories and make sure the generations know, and then to memorialize people afterwards. So, you know, it does both.
and Lisa, I'd like to add on one other thing to that. As I mentioned, I found a picture of my grandfather's mother from 1890.
That's cool.
You know what I wouldn't give if my grandparents or my parents were still alive, to ask them these questions, to find out more about genealogy, rather than you can still go to ancestry.com and these other sites from a genealogical perspective and ask people to do some research for you, or you can even do it yourself. But if you can get personal accounts while people are still here, it's that much better.
Yes,
And that's where I
Or-
come in.
that's what she does. That's
That's what I do with my book project. So I
Yes.
know exactly what you mean.
Yes.
That's awesome, because one of the other services that I offer is I can send somebody, a videographer, to your house. Ask somebody, you can ask, they'll ask you a bunch of questions, I think around 160 questions. The video will be time coded. After it's time coded, it's preserved, and it can be preserved for up to 300 years. So say someone 300 years from now wants to ask you a question, they can literally ask you a question and you can answer.
That's my kind of project.
Wow, I like that.
I love that.
So technology has gotten to a point where I can take you from the past to the present, all the way to the future.
Nice.
Very nice. Very nice, Jeff. You do some really great, important work, especially to keep people's legacy alive and really memorialize people. I love that. Love that.
Thank
Let's
you.
have your contact information one more time, Jeff. All right.
Sure, thank you. www at, or Jeff at mydigital-memories.com or www.mydigital-memories.com, or my phone number is 703-861-2793.
It's great. It's really nice to meet you and do some really important.
I really appreciate this.
Sure, absolutely.
Absolutely, Jeff.
We'll let you know what we do. Since Susan does something really neat about legacy work. Susan, talk about your books.
Well, I do a 4-week book project, and it's for people local on Long Island. I can come to you. Otherwise, we work on Zoom together. And I accumulate about 10 to 12 hours worth of audio through questions that I ask you in a simple conversation like this. And it's fun because people go off on tangents and get different memories just stemming from the one question I asked. And then I take all of that information and I weave it into a book, a 12 by 12 book with text and photos, all the photos that you send me. And it ends up being anywhere between 50 and 100 pages usually. And they're on it's on that very thick stock. So the pages cannot be torn like those new wedding albums that they do. And then I present that to the family, and it's just an incredible gift for generations to come. I work with a lot of seniors to get their stories down. And although my last couple are with end of life with a terminal diagnosis, I just did one for a woman who was 43 with 2 young children at 10 and 12. And just as I gave her the book for review, she passed. So she did get to see the final version, but this book, the way that I structure it, is filled with it's filled with tips and advice and life wisdom for her 2 children to refer to as they grow older. I mean, I went through prom with her, falling in love, traveling, spouses, and, you know, and moving forward. So it's such a meaningful gift, these things but people have to be aware, and they have to either pre-plan for them or know about them to put them into place. So finding the clients to tell this to, you know, can sometimes be a challenge, but there is a challenge to get it done ahead of time before you pass. So that's one of my main projects that I'm working on now, and you can find that at eastenddoulacare.com. The address is up above, or that's my phone number, and we can have a consultation about that.
Talk about the garden too, because that's another
The
part.
healing garden ball. Lisa likes now when I talk about she wasn't so sure at the beginning.
I wasn't
So
sure.
they're Long Island stones that I find myself, and I put inspirational messages on them, and they're in a bowl. And it's a therapeutic healing tool is what I call it, because I put instructions on it just to sit with one rock each day, 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night, to review and reflect on this certain inspiration. And the first one I started was if you have a friend who's grieving, it helps them. But you talked a lot about pet loss, Jeff, and I've made one for pet loss for a friend with cancer, going through cancer treatments right now. And I made one for a caregiver, because who cares for the caregiver? So there are really some special messages on there for them.
Nice.
And a couple others, but you can find them on my website. And Lisa, some of the things you do?
Sure. So as a bereavement specialist, I help people do their journeys their own way, whether that's individual work or whether that's some kind of workshop. I love, again, memories. That's what I specialize in. And I help people celebrate holidays in a different way and try to move forward with a new life. It's never going to be the same. We all know that. But we do know that life goes on, and our loved ones would want us to be happy in our lives. And I tell people that all the time, but it is a process, and I understand that process really well. So I do that. And I have 2 books that are support books for pancreatic cancer, as my husband died of that 13 years ago. I really believe in the cause, and our local organization here, the Les Garten Foundation, is the world's largest not-for-profit that does pancreatic cancer research for an eventual cure and also early detection. That's the other problem with that disease. So both books are on Amazon, and they're also on my website, www.familiesmoveon.com. And it's all support from people who have already gone through the process. So you don't feel as alone as we all did when we were going through it. I didn't even know where pancreas was, by the way. And the doctor said there was a growth on the pancreas. It's like, where is that? So I don't know. I must have failed biology along the way. I'm not sure what happened to me, but I didn't know anything. So anyway, spend our time doing that. So there we have it.
So if you have any questions about today's video, please reach out to Lisa and I, and we can connect you with Jeff.
Yep.
Or connect you with any one of our services. And we really appreciate having you with us today. Were there any last minute things you wanted to throw out there, Jeff?
One of the other services I offer that I was just thinking about it are travel videos, travel memory videos. And one of the things we do that's kind of unique is that we provide a service where, as you're taking the pictures, I can automatically create your video while you're doing it, wherever you are.
Real time.
So by the time you end up coming home, your video's done.
Wow.
Nice.
That's cool.
Nice.
That's cool. Very neat.
A new wave of things that are happening every single day, new things, right?
Yes.
We have to just go with the flow.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, Jeff, thanks so much. We appreciate
thank
it.
you.
You do really important work. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care,
Thanks
everybody.
again,
Have a
Jeff.
great day. Okay.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.